Imagine waking up tomorrow and your neighbor can think 3 times faster than you, memorize an entire library overnight, and speak 6 languages fluently. Not because they studied harder, but because they paid for it. That future is no longer science fiction. In 2026, Neuralink's brain-computer interface has moved out of clinical trials and into the open market, and the world will never be the same. But who actually gets access? Who decides what our minds can and cannot do? And what happens to the billions of people who simply can't afford to upgrade? This is the story of cognitive inequality, the new class divide that doesn't split us by wealth alone, but by the raw power of our minds. Welcome to 2026. Neuralink's N2 chip, the 2026 generation, is roughly the size of a coin. It is implanted by a robotic surgeon in under 2 hours, with patients discharged the same day. Unlike the early prototypes used to help paralyzed patients communicate, the N2 is designed for healthy, able-bodied people, ordinary people, seeking cognitive enhancement. The device reads, interprets, and transmits neural signals in real time, connecting your brain directly to AI models, the internet and productivity software, with 0 latency. Users report being able to recall information instantly, compose emails with a thought, solve complex equations, and process data at speeds that used to require a computer, all in their heads. Pricing: the base N2 implant starts at $35,000 USD. Premium tiers with expanded bandwidth and AI model access run upwards of $120,000, not covered by standard health insurance. Let that sink in. The ability to think faster, remember more, and work smarter, priced out of reach for 90% of the global population before a single thought is even formed. To understand the divide, we first need to understand the power. Early N2 users, nicknamed augmented in tech circles, are already reshaping what's possible in science, law, medicine, and finance. Stanford published a study early this year showing that augmented students scored 47% higher on complex reasoning tests than their non-augmented peers. That's not a small edge. That's a different game entirely. In the workplace, augmented employees are closing deals in hours that used to take weeks, writing and shipping software in real time, and managing entire organizations with what appears to be superhuman clarity. Proponents argue this is simply the next evolution of human tools, like writing, printing presses, smartphones. Each time we extend our minds with technology, society eventually adapts and benefits. But here's the crucial difference. Every previous cognitive tool, books, phones, the internet, eventually became affordable and widespread. Brain implants are surgical, they are scarce, and they are permanently unequal. Economists are already coining a new term: cognitive capital. The idea that your mind's raw processing power is now as much a financial asset as land, money, or social connections. And cognitive capital compounds, just like financial capital. The augmented get better jobs. Better jobs pay for better implant tiers. Better tiers unlock more capability. The loop closes tighter every year. Job listings in Silicon Valley and London are already appearing with clauses like neural enhancement preferred, discrimination, or just the new normal. In education, the gap is terrifying. Augmented children in elite private schools are absorbing full university curriculums by age 14. Meanwhile, public school students compete with their unaugmented biology. Neuroscientists warn that early augmentation during brain development may create irreversible cognitive divergence. By adulthood, augmented and non-augmented humans may literally think in structurally different ways. We have seen wealth inequality. We have seen educational inequality. But cognitive inequality is something new. A gap that cannot be closed by studying harder, working longer, or dreaming bigger. It is, for the first time in history, a biological class divide enforced not by birth alone, but by purchase. Sociologists are already mapping what they call the post-human class pyramid, 3 emerging tiers reshaping every society on Earth. At the top, the augmented elite. Less than 2% of the global population, yet controlling an estimated 40% of new knowledge creation, patents, and economic output by end of 2026. Below them, The digital middle, professionals who access cognitive tools through subscription AI, wearables, and partial augmentation. Enhanced but not fully upgraded, perpetually competitive and anxious. And at the base, the biological underclass. Billions of people, the majority of humanity, navigating a world increasingly designed by and for augmented minds, with no neural upgrade in sight. Governments are scrambling. The UN has proposed a universal cognitive access framework, arguing that access to cognitive enhancement should be classified as a human right by 2030. Meanwhile, China has launched a state-subsidized neural augmentation program for military and STEM personnel. South Korea has announced public funding for BCI access in universities. The arms race is cognitive now. The question isn't whether cognitive inequality is real. The question is, do we have the will and the time to prevent it from becoming permanent? Beyond inequality lies a deeper question that philosophers, ethicists, and legal scholars are only beginning to ask. If a corporation makes your mind faster, who actually owns your thoughts? Neuralink's terms of service grant the company access to neural data for product improvement. That's your memories, emotions, decision patterns, and private thoughts, anonymized, they claim. Cybersecurity researchers have already demonstrated proof-of-concept neural signal interception, extracting fragments of a user's intended speech, 30 seconds before they even speak. Authoritarian governments have taken notice. Several nations are reportedly developing mandatory neural monitoring requirements for civil servants and security personnel. And then there's cognitive manipulation. If an implant can enhance focus, it can also suppress it. If it can amplify motivation, it can also instill compliance. The line between medicine and control is thinner than a neural thread. The EU's Neural Rights Act, currently in emergency legislation, attempts to enshrine 5 cognitive rights: mental privacy, freedom of thought, mental integrity, psychological continuity, and equal access to cognitive enhancement. So where does this lead? Experts are modeling 3 divergent futures, depending entirely on the decisions governments, corporations, and citizens make in the next 5 years. Future 1, the cognitive commons. Governments regulate neural tech like public infrastructure, heavily subsidized, universally accessible. The augmentation gap narrows within a generation. Human potential truly democratized. Future 2, the cognitive oligarchy. Regulation fails, markets rule. A small, permanently enhanced class locks in permanent economic and political dominance. Democracy erodes as cognitive power concentrates. Future 3, the cognitive schism. Society fractures. Augmented and unaugmented communities self-segregate, culturally, politically, geographically. 2 branches of humanity diverging not just in wealth, but in thought itself. None of these futures are inevitable. All of them are already beginning. The path we take depends entirely on choices being made right now, in labs, boardrooms, parliaments, and living rooms around the world. History tells us that every transformative technology arrives with promises of liberation and risks of exploitation. The printing press spread knowledge and also propaganda. The internet connected and also surveilled. Neuralink will be no different. The most important question of our generation is no longer, how smart can we make machines? It's, who decides how smart humans are allowed to be and who gets left behind? This isn't a story about technology. It's a story about values, about what kind of species we choose to be, one that evolves together, or one that fragments into something history has never seen before. If you believe the mind belongs to the person, not the corporation, not the state, then this is the moment to say so. Share this. Debate this. Demand legislation. The window for course correction is open, but it won't be forever. The human mind is the last frontier. Let's decide together who gets to explore it.